She's a Sailor Moon fan. She can sing like an angel. She's beautiful, and she is my wife. We discuss some of the strong and weak points in our relationship and give you a behind-the-scenes look into our life. Welcome to a bonus episode of the Wreck My Podcast. All right, welcome to a bonus episode of the Wreck My Podcast. I am joined here again by my beautiful and lovely wife.
Hello, hello.
Madison.
That was our dog
Our dog
sneezing.
just sneezed during that intro. We're starting to do some bonus episodes. It didn't take us too long to start doing that, but every now and then on a Saturday, we're going to release some fun stuff. And we thought it'd be fun for us to kind of give a little bit of insight into our relationship since she's been on the podcast now, like, four times. This will be your fifth time being on the podcast. And as you can see, we just finished our Lunchable episode. So continuity for those of you that watched the Lunchable episode. We still got a few things sitting here. The nachos were the ones we liked, so we're gonna eat those.
Tell you about
but everything else got thrown away pretty much. So this episode, we're getting together and we're doing. You looked up some questions, some relationship questions.
Yes.
That I really haven't seen yet, but you're gonna ask it and we're gonna answer them and give people a little bit of an insight to our relationship because obviously people we know say that we're very right for each other. So we're going to test that idea and that perception and see what you guys, the viewers, think. And be sure to like and subscribe the YouTube channel, the iTunes podcast app. Go to Twitter and Instagram at Wreck My Podcast. Leave us comments and reviews and say whether or not you think we are a right couple to be together. All right, now we're moving on to the actual show. Did you want to add something to that?
No, I was just surprised you going
belted
straight
that
to your
out.
plugs.
Boom,
no
I belted it out.
nonsense.
Yeah, that's right.
I think, we were kind of sitting here after the Lunchables episode and we're like, hey, like we already have everything set up. And I'm like, not only would it be maybe something to kind of like get to know us more as a couple, but also like Jordan mentioned, we've helped a lot of our friends and people have helped us, a lot with our relationship. But kind of like go over maybe like frequently asked questions or anything like that, kind of like our insight maybe on
for sure.
relationships.
It's always fun to find other people's like ideas of stuff. Do you want to give them a little bit of backstory on what our relationship is like?
Well, the first question I had here was, how did we meet?
Perfect. Let's start there.
Because we touched on this on a previous one, kind of like a little bit.
Yes.
But pretty much what happened is that I was working all throughout college. I worked at a nail salon, and the girl who I met actually through college, but then I got a job at the nail salon. It was like a random Tuesday, and she was like, hey, like, I don't know if you have anything going on, but a good family friend of mine is having a birthday party, and like, you should come. And I was like, yeah, I'm 19 and have nothing else to do on a Tuesday, so I'll go with you. So I went and I met her, and the surprise 50th birthday party was actually for my future mother-in-law.
Yeah, and you always say it would be amazing if you could just stop time right then and be like, hey, in what would it have been, 6 years from this moment, she will be your mother-in-law.
Yeah, well, actually, only like,
it was 6 years, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's interesting, too, that half of those people in those room would be my future family, and
True.
I had no idea.
Because it was a 50th surprise birthday party, all those people, all the family was there. Like, it was pretty crazy. So, you went with a family friend to that, and I remember as I was helping throw the 50th birthday party, and you were probably the only person there I didn't know because I had picked and sent invitations to everyone, so you were definitely on my radar because I was like, new cute girl, I'm single, who is this person? I need to find out. And hoping she's not a family member.
Yes, I remember at 19, like, I was in such a phase of like sarcasm. Like, I thought that was so funny. For like 3 years, that's all I thought was funny. I was the most sarcastic person ever. And I remember the friend that I came with said something like, hey, Jordan, like, where do I put the spoons? And he was like, I don't know, probably next to the forks. And I just thought it was like so funny that he was so sarcastic. And of course, he was older and he was really cute.
Yeah. Older boys.
I was kind of coming out of like a relationship and I was just like back on the scene, like, oh my gosh, he's so cute. And then pretty much like we didn't talk for like the first like hour or so.
No, and it wasn't like it was awkward, like, oh, I don't want to talk to you. It was just because I was running around hosting. I was getting the cake ready, making sure people had stuff. And there were like other people our age there. So you were hanging out with your friend.
Hanging out with them.
And my friend Andy, who's been on the show before, was there and everything. So
I actually met Andy before I met you.
Yes.
And then we were like in a group and pretty much everybody kind of left the group and ended up just being you and I, and he made an obscure WWE reference and I got it and we ended up talking about it. And then I remember leaving thinking like, cool. Like, he was nice. And then Jordan texted my friend and was like, who was that girl that you brought? Like, she was cute and she knew about WWE. And then from there we were...
Well, then we went 2 weeks later, I think it was, went to a party together with that same friend at my cousin's house. And I was trying to act like the cool... aloof guy.
Yes.
I be aloof. And it was a little bit too far because you were just thought I wasn't into you the whole night.
Well,
and
you
you're
didn't
like,
talk to me for
no.
3
And you were like,
hours.
well, I went all the way out to Lancaster to hang out at this party with you with like no one I know.
Yeah.
And you were trying to like get my attention by like.
I was in like a super sexy Catwoman outfit.
Yeah.
And he didn't even
She
say
was a
anything
super
to me.
sexy Catwoman. It was great. I noticed it and I knew it. I was trying to play hard to get because obviously I wasn't in any serious relationship up to that point. I had no clue how to play the game. I don't know. Like, you know me. I'm super awkward. I'm very weird. That works for relationships as friendships. That does not work for a relationship with a new person who doesn't know you to like make them think you're into them kind of thing. So we did that. But by the end of the night then, I remember you dropped me off at my house because we had all drove together. And I was like, can I get your number? And you were like, oh, my friend will send it to you in the morning. And I was like, well, I'm never hearing from that girl again. But surprisingly, I did get her number. and then I don't remember. Okay, so was it the next day?
We went.
The next day, it was my cousin's bachelor party where we went shooting guns. And we had made plans to go see a movie that night. So after shooting guns, I went home to shower.
That was like our first official
And that was our
date.
first official date. We went to Lazy Dog and had dessert. And then we went and saw the remake of Footloose. Yeah, Footloose. In theaters. So that was our first real date.
Yeah.
And then we dated for a month. Or I guess
like
we don't
3
want to go.
weeks.
Do we want to go further than that? It was just like, how did we meet?
Well, yeah, that was pretty
but
much
we can
how
go
we
further
met.
than that.
I mean, the short version is we dated for 3 weeks. We broke up. And that's why I think people are interested in our story or want to know is because we, after 3 weeks, were like, this is not working.
Yeah.
We're clearly not meant to be. Yeah. Like, it was not vibing. And then so we broke up.
It wasn't that it wasn't vibing.
No, it was not vibing.
Personality-wise, we were good for each other.
But the relationship wasn't working.
Relationship
I remember
wasn't.
we were both like, why didn't we just stay friends?
Yeah.
Like, this is so
like we
weird.
got along so well, but the pressure of this relationship was just too
horrible.
much for both of us. Like,
we don't need to get into that part of it. But yeah, pretty much we dated for 3 weeks. We broke up for 2 years. I was in another long-term serious relationship for pretty much those entire 2 years. And then when that relationship ended, Jordan reached out to me and was like, hey, like, I was just thinking of you. Like, the show that we used to watch is like on Netflix and I thought of you and like, I'd love to like go hang out. And I remember thinking like, yeah, like I really need a friend right now. And then.
And you got a husband.
Yeah, the rest is history.
It's funny because the whole 2 years I was just like stalking you and didn't really date anyone. You know, not
well. You told your mom, like,
not void of trying, but
I think she's the one that.
Yeah, I was bummed because I was like, all these other people I know, personality-wise, don't match up with me anywhere near as close as Madison did. But at that point, you had been with this guy for so long. I was like, they're getting married. Well, I didn't see the turmoil going on in the relationship. I saw the Instagram, Facebook, lovey-dovey stuff that people put out there, not the problems. So the moment I started seeing your Instagram shift to like more angsty, emotional things, and I didn't see him showing up anymore, I was like, oh, I gotta text her and make some BS excuse up of why I'm texting her.
To be fair, you did date people while we were
barely,
but
like
you were
here
always
and there.
like nobody measures that.
It just never it just never meshed because I'm such an awkward, anxious guy that it's like, yes, even someone who meshed with me 100%, I was awkward and anxious. Just imagine how much more it was being with people that didn't mesh with me very well, you know?
Because I think the thing is people are very attracted to your personality. They're attracted to you, but how much you're attracted to them back is what kind of... Because you had a lot of girls that really liked you and stuff. Not a lot.
Not a
but
lot.
I'm saying,
there were
like,
a few.
That's how you dated them, but then, like, long-term, you didn't see it.
Yeah, and I mean, I was also young. I was like, I want to do my bachelor thing. And that's what, going into our second time dating, I didn't want to compromise my... life.
Well, it's kind of a different
we'll get into that next. So that's how we met.
Yeah. The second question was, how long have we been together?
So from first time meeting, it's been 6 years, but overall it's been 4.
We've known each other.
For 6 years. Because even during that time we weren't dating, we were still cordial. On birthdays, we would say
Christmases,
happy birthday, Christmases. Like, if anything reminded us of each other.
Yeah.
So we got a text maybe once every like 2 or 3 months from each other.
Maybe.
That was about it.
Yeah. That would be at most.
Yeah.
But we have been officially together for a little over 4 years. We dated for a year and a half. The first 6 months, which Jordan kind of hinted to, was not great.
No.
we still weren't vibing, but we also knew what it was like to be without each other. So we knew we wanted to be together, but I had come out of 2 pretty bad relationships, and he was used to his bachelor life. So I had a very high expectation of what I wanted. He was not really ready to compromise.
I had a skewed version of what a relationship was. I was like,
yeah,
we only need to be together like 2 nights a week. Every other night, I need to go see my friends. I need to be alone. I need to do this. We don't need to text. I don't want to talk that much. And I don't know why I was like that. I guess it's just because I wasn't used to it. Like now, we text all the time. Like,
and
hey,
we live together.
Yeah, we live together. But it's also like, yeah, we live together, and then it's like, I'm at work. How are you this morning? Good. Randomly, I love you. What are you having for lunch? How you feeling? What are you doing for dinner? When are you getting home? Like, what felt so awkward to me? It felt awkward to be like, I don't have anything more to say, so why are we texting? Where now it's just like randomly, it's like, love you. Like, it's just so easy. Where you don't have to. You just can interact and be like, hey, you were on my mind. I'm letting you know you're on my mind by me just saying like hello. Pretty much. And I don't know why that was such a disconnect. Maybe my lack of experience of being in a serious relationship was the problem. So you got to be the guinea pig.
I know,
Lucky you.
Lucky me. But I mean, because I say we dated 1.5 years before we got engaged, but really it was like a full year of serious dating.
Yes, because like you said, the first 6 months were a little rocky.
But once we got past that initial hump, like it didn't take very long after that. Like 6 months later, we were ring shopping together and like all that stuff. Like a lot of people like fall heavy really fast, where we fell really heavy really fast after 7 months. And then it was like we knew.
It was like we needed a probation period.
Yeah, there was a lot of just like figuring everything out. But I feel like that was good too. It was like, I mean, again, that's another question. But so number 3 is, what is your biggest relationship tip?
Ooh, biggest
for, like,
relationship
other
tip.
People in a relationship.
My biggest relationship tip is start thinking about them. Don't think about yourself. So when people say, and we've said this before, when they're like, it's 50-50, you say this all the time, it's 100-100. You have to give 100%. Both person has to give 100%. So don't assume that you should be, because I always assume that like, hey, my life comes first and our relationship comes second. Don't assume that. Don't also say, I need to work on myself before I can work on us. That's not a valid thing either. When you find someone that makes you happy, so we watched Bo Burnham, great stand-up special called Make Happy on Netflix, and this dude is amazing.
He's a genius.
He has so much insight, so much humor, but so much wisdom as well. And it's literally, it's useful for everyone. And he has a song where it's like, lower your expectations, just find someone and love them. It's so true. It's like, when you view yourself as this like amazing catch, believe me, 99.999999999% of the time, you're not an amazing catch. There's very few amazing catches out there. So don't expect to be like, hey, I need someone who has no faults and no flaws whatsoever.
Because you want somebody to love you for your faults.
Exactly.
And flaws.
Guess what? So you're going to have a bunch of crap that someone doesn't really like about you either, that they're going to overlook and still love you unconditionally for. You have to do the same thing. So I think my one tip is compromise. Don't think it's all about you. Think it's all about us.
Yeah.
You have to have that mindset. If you don't have that mindset, 1, you're not ready for a relationship. 2, it may not be the right person. And 3, you're never going to make it. You
like
have to have you have to have that mindset.
Yeah. I think my biggest one, like, one of the ones we heard recently from having an older couple with us over for dinner was they were saying in all your relationship, like every aspect of it, have a race to see who can be more humble first.
That's
which
a great thing.
Is great. Like that's more like a fighting tip. Like when you're feeling super prideful and like I'm right, like flipping it and being like, how would I? Like you want them to say sorry. Like if you like truly love each other and like have a super healthy relationship, you don't enjoy being angry or upset with each other.
You don't want the drama.
I think is
if you're in a relationship and you enjoy the drama, there's something wrong. Get out of that relationship.
Enjoy the drama.
Yeah, you are not mature enough to be in a relationship. I am sorry.
Yeah. I think that my biggest like relationship tip though is kind of what Jordan was saying. Like, don't think that you are so above it all. Like you always quote that cartoon where she like the woman is like making like dinner and then she burns it and she turns to her husband. She was like, yay, you get to like take me out because I messed it up. And I'm like, trust me, we've done that. Like I have made mistakes and burned things, but it's not like.
That's a learning curve, not like
But I'm saying like,
no, I get what you're saying.
It's that you're not perfect. So don't be don't be bratty. Like, you know, and be allow for their faults as well.
Yeah.
Because that's literally like one of the most honest quotes is a relationship is two imperfect people who like love each other and refuse to give up on each other.
Exactly.
Like,
and there's no perfect person. Like, everyone has to work on something. So don't expect it to be like all love and roses and kisses.
I think a lot of people like, and I know it can sound wrong, so I hope it's not taken wrong, but I'm like, people get so caught up on looks, and I'm like, like, I'm not Jordan's typical type, and I like used to get so upset by that. Like, it used to be like so like one of my insecurities, but now I'm like, it's not about the looks. Like, what is this people like? What do they contribute to your life and your relationship? Like, they're even when we get older, we're not going to be attractive or like anything. Like, looks really do fade. So don't just be like, oh, I need a guy who's 6'4" and I need a guy who does this. It's like, you're not probably what everybody's into either.
Yeah.
So,
well, when people refer to a type, it's always physical. But I'm like, what about personality and emotional and stuff? Like, those are the things that matter. Because like you said, yeah, if you have a type, guess what? That person's not going to be your type anymore, like in 20 years. But you still should be with them if you decide to be with them. So it's like, you can't judge a long-term relationship on short-term appearances, which, you know, at this point, it's like, I don't even remember what my physical type was. Like, I just know I love you and I want to be with you, and I find you more attractive than anyone else.
Right.
Because it's not like just an appearance thing. It's like we have this emotional, intimate bond.
Yeah.
That created, and it did not start off that way.
No.
People look at our relationship and they're like, you guys are so like intuitive and you guys are so in love, and it's like, well, it's not always like that. We may not scream and yell at each other, but we have our faults where we fight, and it's a different type of fighting. It's not worse or better.
Right.
And the beginning of a relationship, we weren't like that, and I still have things I have to work on where.
And me too.
And she still has things that get on each other's nerves, things that, but she brings me to be a better person because I love her so much. I want to be the best version of myself for her. And if you don't find someone that you feel that way about, you're not only wasting their time because you're not putting any effort into it. You're wasting your own time because you're not building yourself up either. Like, when you find the right person, you know it because you are making them better and they're making you better. Yeah. And now you're becoming two better people. So as you're moving on down life, you're both becoming more awesome, but together. And that's what's awesome.
And I think to kind of like wrap it up was that, like, I remember when Jordan asked for my dad's blessing, like, and I asked my dad, I was like, oh, like, I knew my dad was going to say yes, because obviously if you've watched other podcasts, they're best friends. Yeah. But my dad had told me kind of like, you know, he knew how serious Jordan was about marriage, and he knew he was not stepping into this lightly, but not just in marriage. Jordan was a smart decision. Like, he was not this emotional, fleeting, like, sweep you off your feet and we're going to go run off and elope.
That would sound very awkward.
No, but I mean, like, it was a very serious,
totally.
like, in the sense that, like, I knew you were a hard worker. I knew that you were very serious about the things I was serious about. Like, our personalities probably could not be more different, but our values are the same. And I feel like people get so caught up on the superficial things that need to match. Like, he's hot and he likes dogs and this, and it's like, but is that really the things that are going to make you laugh?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Don't get caught up in the emotions. Like, we both were smart decisions for each other, and then the emotion came with it later.
And don't get caught up on the thing too where it's like, I like to go rock climbing, but they like to go like swim in the ocean or whatever. It's like your hobbies don't need to line up perfectly either. It's great when they do, because then you can go enjoy those things together. But guess what? They don't need to, because you can still go enjoy those things together.
Yeah.
But guess what? That's building your relationship, because now you're sacrificing your time to do something they enjoy.
Yeah.
And guess what? They're more grateful, and you feel more close to them because now you're doing something that you know they're passionate about, and you get to be a part of that. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's so abstract, but it's just when it's there, it's so simple too. Like, the words are so simple, but I totally get it. It's so hard to put into application.
Like how everything's cliche until you're in it.
Yeah.
Then it's just true.
Oh, yeah, I know. It's very true. So maybe we're not selling anyone right now on this idea.
On, like, kind of in the same area, what do you think is the biggest success to our relationship?
The biggest success to our relationship, I think, is our bond. I think when you look at the beginning of our relationship and you look where we are now, I think the fact that we have such a tight, close-knit, like, empathy for each other.
Yeah, the empathy.
I think that's our biggest accomplishment as a relationship. If you want to say biggest accomplishment.
No, biggest, like, thing that makes us succeed in our relationship.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, what's the best thing? I think it's the fact that we're both very compassionate and
I
empathetic
agree.
people.
Because when we tell people we've never fought, people are always like, how could that be? And I'm like, that doesn't mean things are happy all the time.
Mm-mm.
But we've never screamed. We've never exchanged, like, hurtful words and, like, cursing or name calling or anything like that. But it's because Jordan and I, even in our angry moments, are so compassionate toward each other. And I always grew up, like, I honestly think this is my biggest thing for how I act as a wife is I know my weaknesses, and one of them is how sensitive I am. So Jordan's intent is never to hurt me, but that doesn't mean that I don't take it as hurtful. So my biggest thing is think about it. Like, don't just immediately react. Like, give it a day or two, and then if it's still bothering me, then bringing it up. But most likely, if I sleep or eat or something that a basic need, that I'm gonna let it go because it's so much. I'm such an emotional person, so I'm like, honestly, the reason people can fight so much is when they don't have that objective.
I feel like it's pride that makes people fight because they want to be the one that's right.
Right.
We never fight because we want to be the one that's right. We fight because the other person, the other person did something unintentional to annoy them, but instead of
like
causing a scene that then the other person becomes defensive and then it just escalates and escalates. We both get very introverted and quiet about it. So the other person can definitely tell something's wrong. Totally. And I think the best thing for both of us is just kind of let them have space for a minute, but also reassure them
like I'm here.
That I'm here, I love you. And, like, even if they're, like, being whatever about it, it's like, no, you keep telling them because that's still hitting home and everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we lucked out that we're both very empathetic people in that sense, but it's not that hard. It's like when you get upset, instead of lashing out, don't. Just wait a minute. Because we were talking to someone about the switch that flips. Graham, yeah. So one of our friends was telling us about that it's scientifically proven that when you get angry, there's literally this switch that flips in your brain that you don't have control pretty much over what you say. But it's like for 20 minutes or whatever. Like after a certain amount of time, it just calms itself down. So it's like if people could just train themselves that when that switch flips, and you know when it does because you get angry, it's equivalent to saying, I saw red, right?
Yeah.
You take yourself out of the situation. You wait until you see green, until you're back in the green, and then address the situation. If you're even still upset about it, like you said, one of our biggest, the most cliche things that we disagree with is when people tell us never go to bed angry. A lot of the times we're like, look, sometimes what we need is just like a good night's sleep or a meal, or it's like there's sometimes an outside force that's making this situation 10 times worse than it would have been.
And staying up late until 2:30 in the morning to hash it out is not always the best.
It was 15 pages back and front.
18 pages.
18 pages, sorry. Friends reference.
I do want to put the disclaimer, that's not true for everybody. Some people legitimately cannot sleep knowing that the other person is upset. And that's where you have to gauge it for every relationship. Yeah.
If that's how they are, guess what? You need to take care of that. But for us personally, and for most people, you're not going to resolve anything at 2 a.m. or even if it's 10 o'clock. You're not going to resolve anything when you're tired. Yeah. You're not going to resolve anything when you're hungry. You're not going to resolve anything when you're not in the right mindset to be humble and to resolve the problem. And you're not going to resolve anything if you're not willing to actually compromise. Because guess what? Like, coming back around, it's not about you anymore. It's about the us. And you have to understand that. It's just, it's the foundation of any good relationship, essentially. It's kind of sacrificing your own wants for the wants that is better for both of you. It doesn't mean you need to be miserable all the time.
No.
It means that you need to be willing to not do what you want 100% of the time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. If that's your mindset, be a bachelor for the rest of your life or a bachelorette for the rest of your life. That's fine. People do that. That's totally fine.
And I think, too, like, one of the things that Jordan and I had a conversation at, I think probably, like, once we got engaged and we were going through, like, premarital counseling and everything was like, what are your boundaries? Like, what are things that I can never say to you, even when I am like the most heated in the moment? And like, that's a pretty vulnerable question.
Oh, yeah.
But also respecting those boundaries, like never using that then to twist it and hurt them.
That's an accountability on both sides, because one's being open and vulnerable, but the other one now has to take that information and not actually use that against them.
Right, because that's where like the hurt comes.
Because if you do that, guess what? That's 10 times worse, because you know that they're
that's
in the know
bad
about
to
what
come
it is,
back
and if
from.
they use it, sorry, that's hard to. Yeah, that's really hard to
that's
come
pretty
back
bad.
from.
I think just being humble is probably
totally.
the biggest
What
one.
question were we even answering on that? I feel like we got off on
The
a
biggest
tangent.
success for our relationship. We kind of like gave a lot of them.
Yeah.
But, so kind of going back to like some of the beginning ones, I saw a lot of questions that were like about the beginning stages. Like, how often do you think you should hang out with your significant other at the beginning?
And like I said, I was very skewed at the beginning.
Right.
I think it's different for everyone. So this is one of those areas where it's dependent. I don't budge on the idea of compromise and being humble and sacrificing.
You don't compromise on compromise?
I don't compromise on compromise. Nope. And I don't moderate on excess. What does Dorit say?
I believe in an excess of everything except moderation.
Yes, that's great. So obnoxious. I think that's dependent.
Yeah.
So here's the problem. I know people who are in long-term relationships. They don't get the option of getting to hang out all the time.
Right.
They have to pick their weekends here and there that they can actually see each other. It's all about your personality as a couple. It's all about your needs as a couple and making it known. If one person wants to hang out every night and the other person only wants to hang out once a week, you got to meet somewhere in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So you both got to compromise. If both of you want to hang out every night, awesome. That's great. That's something you got going on. If both of you want to hang out once a week, that's great too. But you need to be communicative. You need to communicate and use right words and see where you're at, because that's another thing of like, it's hard to give a solid answer on that. But what would you say?
I think I agree with Jordan. The one like disclaimer I would give is based on how serious you're wanting this relationship to be.
Yes.
Like, if it's just like a hangout or it's nothing too serious, then I'd be like, maybe compromise isn't that big of a deal. Like, you just want to see him when you see him, or maybe that's not even an issue, you guys. Like, both are on the same page and want to hang out like every single day. Like, hey, that's cool. But I mean, I can only speak from our experience, which was that I was like coming off of a past of people cheating on me. I did not trust anybody to not be with me 24/7 outside of not working. And Jordan was very much like, no, like, I need to hang out with my guys.
Had a life like
I will hang
outside
out with
of that
you
for so long,
maybe once or twice a week. So.
And you didn't know what was going. Like you were probably fabricating in your mind, like, oh, he's going out and hanging out with all these girls on the off time. When realistically,
which you were, but they were girlfriends.
They were all friends from like high school who were all in other serious relationships that I viewed as like sisters and stuff. Right. So, but like mostly, it was like no one knew was coming into my life.
But I think because Jordan, even at that stage, had the mindset of that he didn't want to have the relationship end, that you were willing to compromise, but I had to compromise too. Even what I was asking you for, I had to compromise. And that's where it comes in that even though I had a past of not trusting, I needed to trust you because you would never wrong me.
And it was a hard disconnect at the beginning too because of your past. You were very jealous about a lot of things.
Everything.
And I'm very opposite of that. Like
you've never felt jealous once.
No. I think while you were dating, you technically went on a date with another dude. Not like you were like, remember your friend wanted to go to Barney's Beanery? Not really a date.
It was not a date.
The dude, like, whatever. But even that, like if the roles were reversed, you would have been super jealous. Even when you got past your jealousy, like when for the bachelor party, you were not jealous at all.
Yeah,
but the idea that like someone could suggest going to a strip club, which you knew 100% I would say no to, because I didn't want to do that. But the idea that was like a thing that people at bachelor parties did.
It made
you very jealous. And you didn't want to text me and like be bugging me, being like, are you sure you're not going to one? Are you sure you're not going to one? Which I would have been fine with to make you feel comfortable, because I'm like, I'm not going to one. I'm literally getting beers with my friends out in Ventura. Like, that's it. But even then, like, you still have that instilled in you because of all these things that happen. It's never going to go away 100%. But you've grown leaps and bounds.
Because I'm like, even to this day, like now, if I see Jordan like talking to somebody, like Jordan's very friendly, so he'll talk to like the girl cashier or like whatever, and he'll make her laugh because obviously you're very funny. And
that's the 10% of the time I make a good joke.
But that used to drive me crazy.
Yes.
And not that I ever like let it out on you, but it would eat away at me. Where now I'm like, whatever, you can talk to her.
I have that infamous
care.
story of when we first started redating the second time we went to Disneyland.
Yes. But what I was going to say is that, like, even now, it's, like, wired in my head. Like, the other day when you were in the liquor store and it took too long.
Yeah.
After 10 minutes, I was like, I don't see him. Like, what if there's a girl in there? Like, I just automatically thought that. And it's like, why?
Yeah.
Like, it's so weird. But, I mean,
and I do my best not to instill those jealousy things in you either. Like,
but you're not, you would never.
I'm still
do that
friendly
to
to people, but if someone's like, I don't know, if there's a situation where I'm with you and I feel like it could be misconstrued in any way, I specifically go out of my way to make sure that that doesn't happen, because I'm like, my life is for you. It's not for like this rando who I don't know. Like, who cares? Like, I'll hurt your feelings, random person. I don't care about that. I'm not making my wife feel insecure or jealous about anything. Like, sorry.
Which is a me thing, not a you thing.
No, but you've grown so much. And that's another thing about compromise. Like, that's not something I dealt with, but I had to identify it and I had to work to help you get to a point where it wasn't such a deal anymore, because I wanted you to feel comfortable with me. And it's not necessarily being like, it's anything you're doing wrong, it's anything I'm doing wrong. It's like, this is the situation and this is what we have to do to get out of it. And
I'll give you a beer if you can remember what the original question was.
Hang on. Give me a beer.
5, 4, 3.
No! It was, what is the
No, you can't look.
biggest advice for guys?
No, you lost.
What was it?
It was how much significant time should we, or how many times should you spend with your significant other?
I don't know. Am I the king of tangents?
It was my fault because I was talking about my past with the jealousy.
At least I'm the king of something.
Okay, so what would you do if you were giving advice to somebody who was in your situation where you had broken up and they were now moved on to the other person, because you were in a point where everybody was telling you
just move
reach
on.
out to them, reach out to them.
Oh, to you at the beginning.
Yeah, I'm saying, like, what would your advice be now, knowing how it ended up? Would you say reach out?
So here's the thing.
them?
I don't think I did anything incorrect. I think that if it was going to work out, it was going to work out. And the reason I didn't reach out to you at the beginning is because you started dating someone. I'm like, I'm not going to be that guy. I lost my opportunity. I had a shot. I blew it. Guess what? It's this guy's turn, and I'm not going to go and wreck that. If this guy messes up, oh, believe me, I am right there waiting.
Right.
I would give that advice, because if it's meant to be, it's meant to be.
Even to this day, you would not reach out to
I would not, because here's the thing. It worked out great, which is great, but it's if you mess up, it's just like, all right, if you decide to drive drunk and you get a DUI, it's like, okay, there's your learning experience. Like, you can't change that. So it's like, don't go and be manipulative to try and get back something that you messed up because of your personal choices. Sorry, take responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not a huge proponent of soulmates, even though I believe that our story is amazing and that, like, it was meant to be.
I don't believe in soulmates.
But I don't believe in soulmates. So I'm like, look, whoever you're meant to be with is still out there then. If you messed it up with this person and you're stuck on them, either they're going to come back around or you're going to meet the person you were meant to be with. Not like, I guess that is kind of a proponent for soulmate or something. I don't know. I believe that it's not like there's...
Soulmate is like one person.
One person. And it's hard for me to digest that out of 8 trillion people in the world, there's one person that's perfectly suited for me. Relationships are work. So guess what? Every relationship you're in is going to have work. So you can make a relationship work with another person. It's just whether or not, I feel like ours is the perfect. Like, I feel like this was meant to be.
Well, I think what we both believe is that you could make it work, a relationship with anybody. Like, we just had Steph and Brian on the show. If the roles were reversed and somehow I was dating Brian and you were dating Steph, you could make it work.
Yeah.
But how compatible would that relationship be? Like, everybody's compatibility is different. So I feel like you and I are very compatible.
We lucked out.
But I don't think we're soulmates.
We found that. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree. What was the question again? Advice for, do I get a beer for this one? Advice for the guys and girls in my situation. So it's funny that you mentioned that too, because back before we started dating, like, my philosophy on exes was like a dog never eat, like, I forget what I used to say, but it was pretty much like, don't barf and then go back to it and eat it kind of thing. Like
Lovely.
once it's done,
You can tell he was very romantic.
yeah, once it's done, get rid of it, never go back to that, like, you know, type of ideal. And then after we broke up and a little bit later, I was like, oh, shoot, I really want that. I was like, well, screw my motto. Like,
Well, I think you had kind of like mentioned, because I remember
Ooh, a
when
Kit
we
Kat.
started dating again, Andy told me Jordan talked about you so much. Like anything that reminded him of you, he would be like, oh, Madison did this. And then his mom had told me that he was like, wow, like, did I really screw that up?
Yeah.
Like, I think I should have. Which I'm like, if your thought process, because now I'm going to answer from my point of view.
Yeah,
like,
answer
if
for
your
your
thought
point of view.
process is, oh, I really like them, but I'm just not happy they're with somebody else, I wouldn't reach out to them. Like, that's not something, that's like
because that's still about you.
wanting somebody else's candy because you don't have it kind of thing. And then I teeter on the second part, because if Jordan would have reached out to me when I was in the other relationship, I would have been like, what the heck? Like, don't, like, why would you impede on my relationship? Like, I would have. And then if he tried to reach out after we broke up, I would have been like, oh, I already know this guy's intentions.
Yeah.
I'm not interested. So I feel like, yeah, there's a level of like fate that it's going to work out the way it's going to work out. But if I was in Jordan's situation and my feelings are as strong as the ones that I know he had, I probably would have said something.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a sticky area. I mean, it's gonna be
Again,
different for
a lot of these
everybody.
things are dependent for each specific
Each
relationship. But we're just telling you our point of view, and
Yeah.
hopefully it helps you out with your point of view.
So the next question is, what is the biggest thing you've learned from this relationship?
Biggest thing I've learned from this
Yeah.
relationship.
That's a good one.
Ooh, that is a good one. I'm trying to think of a witty answer, but I'm not that quick-witted.
You don't need to answer super quick.
I know.
I mean, I've learned so much from this relationship. And I won't get emotional, but I feel like it's...
You can cry. It's good for views.
I know. I feel like it's really true that there's somebody out there who will just, like, love you unconditionally for who you are. Like, again, as cliche as it sounds, like, whether I'm dressed up and we're going to a wedding or I haven't showered in 3 days, like, which happens. I mean, Jordan is always... like, you're just so nice.
I'm so skewed on how much I love her, and like she just can't look bad to me. That she had your hair was like in
oh my
curlers
gosh,
or
ridiculous.
something.
It wasn't done.
It was
in
not done,
curlers.
and I was like, your hair looks so beautiful, and she's like, it's not even done yet.
I
I'm
was like, you must
I
lie
can't
to me
tell.
so much.
I can't tell. I just think you look beautiful right now.
But I just mean, like, when I thought, like, in the previous relationship I was in before Jordan, I was like thinking I was being ungrateful for how unhappy I was in that relationship. Like, I remember just thinking, like, what do you want? Prince Charming? Like, this is how relationships are. You're not going to be happy. Like, this is part of life. Like, you just get married to the person you've been in the relationship with the longest, and that is your life. Like,
Yeah.
I remember seeing that in my future. Like, and I remember thinking times like, wow, like, I'm never going to be happy again, and being like, yeah, you will. Like, life has ups and downs. But then getting out of that relationship and being with Jordan, I'm like, I can't believe that I was going to settle. So it's a weird, like, juxtaposition of lowering your standards, like you're not going to find the perfect person, but then also not settling and being so unhappy.
It's a balancing act for sure.
There really is somebody that's going to love you in the way of, like, a true unconditional meaning.
Yes.
And that is out there. Like, it might not be with the person or the type that you've been dating. You're probably going to have to change it up and not do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. But, like, honestly, that is the biggest thing that I've learned.
Yeah.
Like, that is true.
It's true. Sometimes people are like, why are all my relationships not working out? But it's like, you're going after the same type of dude every time. The guy you meet at the club who's already with another girl. It's like whenever people like they like a guy cheats on a girl for them and then are surprised when he cheats on them or whatever. It's like, well,
what did you
expect?
If he cheated with you, he will cheat on you.
Yeah, it's kind of like sometimes it just doesn't make sense. Like, it's so simple. I think for me, the biggest thing that I've learned, I think it's just like the growth I've come in you opening me up from my own obsessions and compulsions. I think the biggest thing I've learned is that it's all going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like, I think when we first started dating, as much as I'm still so bad about some things, you've made me 10 times better about things that used to literally I would obsess about, I would be freaking out about, I'd be anxious about. You've given me this sense of security and this sense of like home that I don't have those problems. I'm working on those problems. And I feel like being alone, I would have never been forced to work on them because it was me. I didn't really care, whatever. This is how I do it. And being with you, I wanted to be better. So I think I've definitely learned how to be stronger because of you in every aspect.
And you've made huge growth.
Yeah, but like everything, like you've helped me realize that my dreams aren't dumb. Like things I want to do, like a podcast, like someone who doesn't like talking in front of people, who can feel awkward a lot of the time, can go do something super awesome. And you always make me feel like validated. Yeah. Which is a great thing. And that's something that I've learned from you in the sense that like validation is such a key. And I know that one of your love languages is like words of affirmation and everything. And it's like, man, it's so awesome how good that feels.
For sure.
You kind of showed me that, you know. So I don't know if that answered the question really, but
totally
that's my answer. D, all the above.
That's a great answer. Do you have any other questions that you think people would either want to know about us or that like you thought at the beginning of our relationship?
What are we getting for dinner? No, I think that those were good
other
questions.
Ones like that people I've heard ask, but Jordan and I are very, I guess, like in this kind of more like open liberal world, we're a little bit more conservative in the sense that we both don't believe in like sleeping with somebody on the first date or like anything like that. Like, so I feel like those kind of questions we wouldn't really have good answers for because we were both just like, no.
We're both very similar in our mindset, which is also a good thing to find in your partner is like similar in those things because those are big deals. Like, it really
it's philosophies and
exactly, and that's gonna keep
works.
It's gonna keep moving forward into a lot of other areas as you move on.
I just think that we definitely put friendship was first. Like developing our friendship was like the number one thing. Like the fact that we were friends for so long, but then once we were like really united again.
People like to think that like girlfriend and best friend are like you can't have like the same thing or whatever. It's like, well, they don't need to be separate. Like it's like she's not my friend, exclusive. She's my girlfriend. It's like, well, why can't she be your friend too? Like,
yeah, she should be both.
Yeah, like that doesn't make sense at all.
But it was really like friendship and then our relationship and then the intimate relationship. Like it really went in that order.
You take the right steps. And if you take the right steps, you're not going to get into a weird sticky situation.
Yeah, because you already have like a great foundation. Well, this sticky
Is that a
stuff
euphemism?
comes later.
I don't know. I think I walked into a euphemism without even realizing it.
I think you did.
Yeah, but those are great questions. I like that. Yeah. It's always fun reflecting.
And if there's any other like questions that people have, they can put it on your Insta.
Shoot us a comment and we'll maybe do another one of those. Maybe we'll get to a point where we have enough people like following us and sending us questions so we can do like Ask Me Anythings.
Yeah.
Like Jordan and Madison, AMA for like this date. Or is that not a thing anymore? Is that like passe?
No, I think they're a thing. And I think it's good to have a safe space where it's like kind of anonymous. Like you can ask us anything from like
what's your social security number?
No, to like intimate stuff. Like we have a good variety from being people.
Well, speaking to that effect, one job you had in college was you were a relationship columnist. Like you wrote in the California State University Northridge paper. People would write in questions like about their relationships, and you would answer them. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. So you already have the background of this.
Oh, I loved it. I mean, I know that relationships are one of those things where it's like different for every single person, but it's also like everybody goes through stuff. Like everybody's experiences end up being pretty similar. Like they have a lot of the same questions.
If you're feeling something, chances are a lot of other people are feeling something. So no matter what it is, you're never alone in it.
Those were more like I got a lot of questions from like about friend zoning, like if there's a way to get out of the friend zone, like what are 5 tips to like staying in a healthy relationship, like well, that was the title. But people would call it like, how do I get back to being happy? Like, you know, stuff like that. But it was super fun. I mean, I love.
And you have a psychology background, so you definitely know the relationship of the brain and how things work and all that.
And now I work in weddings and events. Like,
well, you use your marketing.
But I'm
psychology
saying, like,
and marketing are very close.
It comes back to the relationships. Like, I love that.
Yeah. Of course, yeah. Well, this was a lot of fun.
It was fun.
We got to sit here and hang out in my office on a Sunday and
Yeah.
talk about our
Have our
relationship
little
and
sleepy
our
Bailey
little
on the
dog
floor.
down there sleeping,
Yeah.
and we got to share a Kit Kat.
There you go.
That was great. That's
Doesn't
always
get
fun.
much better. This
No.
is what marriage amounts to. This is
exactly.
the peak. It's all downhill from here.
This is yeah. What are we gonna do now, man? Ugh. All right, well, guys, thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode, but if you didn't, screw you. It's our podcast.